the Week 3 edition of the Weekly Extra Point Live. I'm your host, Darren Basmachin, the voice of FlagPlus Football, and let me introduce you to our weekly panel of experts. As always, Mo Khan,
What's going on?
Ross Castleton, and Rehan Sarwar. We're going to be breaking down some news, some rumors, some game recaps, looking at some of the teams to look at this week, and we're going to start with, of course, Division 1. So in Division 1, there was a game that we talked up last week, which was Notre Dame and Hurricanes, and we all talked about how Notre Dame surprised everyone coming out of the gate so strong. But now Notre Dame stumbled a bit. They played the Wolverines on Saturday night, and they lost 32-12. But there were some special circumstances, and Rehan's going to talk about that.
You know, Darren, Notre Dame went from being studs in Week 1 to duds in Week 2, and the biggest reason for this change was Carmen Pulice and his absence from the team. Notre Dame had a good simple plan, I found, though, in the beginning. They had Tom Nicolatopoulos as their QB. They kept it simple. They were making one completion at a time. But I think as the game went on, they kind of got away from that plan, tried to do too much, got their offense a bit too complicated, and then Richard Shefteshi came in as a QB. And, you know, I think that's when it all went haywire from them. And they tried to do too much, something that Carmen can only pull off in this league. So Wolverines, on the other hand, kept it simple. They had their drives. Tony Tabet did his job as usual. And in the end, it was a lopsided result for Wolverines. They won the game, and Notre Dame goes to 2-1. Now, what does this mean for Notre Dame, in essence, is that they have to find a way to win without Carmen. I know it's a very tough shoes to fill, and, you know, Tony has done it for Wolverines because their QB went down last winter. But this team has to have a game plan, as Mo Khan said it in Week 1 also, that you have to find a way because injuries can occur, and right now Notre Dame seems like they depend too heavily on Carmen.
I don't think this team can honestly do that. I think that it stops and starts with Carmen Pulice, and I think that anytime you got Chief Shefteshi playing quarterback for you, whether it's D4, D3, D2, D2, D1, you're in trouble for sure. Tom's decent. He's got D3 experience as a quarterback.
Championship experience,
but D3 is not playing D1. These guys will murder you if you try to play quarterback and you're not a tested quarterback, at least at the D2 level.
But they do have some guys, though, when you think about it. They have David Watt, the 6'4" receiver, who had a great Week 1, against the Hurricanes. And when you think about it right now, Notre Dame is still a D2 team getting the transition period into D1. And eventually, when Carmen comes back for the rest of the season, I think this team will win a few more games down the road.
But that's the thing, though, Mo. I mean, like, even Matthew Roy, because Wolverines drew first blood, and, I saw that the Notre Dame wasn't really too concerned with that, and Matthew Roy had a pick for a touchdown, so it was kind of like even right in the beginning. But as the game went on,
with any team, that if you take one player off, I could probably take one player off every team, and they would probably stumble. I mean, taking Carmen off this team, if you take Kevin Wyatt off the high rollers, I mean, there's people that you need definitely on your team. Quarterback, it definitely starts with.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is basically every team has to rely on somebody, and if you don't have that guy, of course you're going to struggle. It's to be expected. But Carmen will be there every week. We know Carmen. He's
of
not.
Course.
I mean, unless something crazy happens. Yeah, obviously.
And I don't disagree with you guys.
Yeah.
You're right. Carmen is the heart of this team right now. But I'm just saying, in the event that something happens, I think they should just still have a plan B. And they were doing fine. They had a simple game plan.
But knowing Chief, he'll recruit someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep in mind, just imagine if they didn't have Carmen Pulice on the team, where this team would be right now. Keep that in mind.
They'd be in D2. I mean, let's be honest, without a quarterback. Exactly. What are you going to have? Rodney moved to Toronto. We'll get to that a bit later. Now, another game we want to talk about in Division 1 is the Machine versus the Hurricanes. Mo's going to let us in on that. Obviously, the Hurricanes had a difficult week last week, losing to Notre Dame, and they wanted to bounce back.
Well, as I mentioned last week in Week 2 of our show here, I said the Hurricanes would have a rebound week, and they did. I mean, these guys came off firing. Sparta Smith, who played for Concordia University, had a great game. The entire team was in flow. Look out. The Hurricanes are going to come back strong next few weeks. They have Montreal's finals in 2 weeks' time, which will be a big game in itself. But Shane Williams, his brother, all these guys were playing excellent football yesterday. And the bottom line is the Hurricanes are back, and look out for them in D1 because they will be a force to be reckoned with.
In the end, for a championship team, I mean, all you can really ask for is that they compete and then they get ready for the playoffs. I mean, who cares? With the talent on that team, they will probably make the playoffs. So in the end, this is all just a warm-up for them.
Well, you're right, though. And the thing is, though, a team like the Machine who has some pieces there. I mean, the receiver, number 78, had an excellent game yesterday. He had a nasty touchdown catch where he made a beautiful out route on a touchdown catch. And look, these guys will surprise a few teams down the road. The schedule was tough at the beginning, but eventually they will be a team that could surprise a couple of teams and become that trap game that people don't want to fall into.
Of course, in that second half, the Hurricanes outscoring the Machine 20-0, kind of reminding us all of how they became champions last season, getting it done both ends of the ball. So that's it for Division 1 for now. We're going to move into Division 2.
Two's edition of Ross's 3 plays off. This week I'll go through it like last. Things I like, things I dislike. First off, Hurricanes Montreal finest. Welcome to 2008. You got it done first week, not so much. I mean, you guys came out, you lost to some questionable teams. This week you put it together, and I'm happy to say that who I thought was on top should be on top. The amount of close games in D2. 4 games, all decided with 3 points or less. Comes down to converts. It's red zone offense, very important. I think Vipers Blast 28-27, Shockers Convicts 28-25, Demons Water Buffalo 36-34, and Click Clack not being able to convert at all in the red zone, not getting done, losing to the Rainmakers. Big game, Click Clack, you know I've shout out to you guys a lot. You got to get those converts in. The amount of buzz about D3, good to see some closer games, not so much 46-nothings. Good rivalries developing, lots of smack talk on the Facebook. Buckeyes, Falcons, Choppers, Nathan, Taylor, Garrett Taylor. I know you guys can speak up, but it looks like you have some challengers in the shit-talking department. D4, glad to have you with us. I'm happy that Rob finally made a division that the Longhorns can play in. I mean, D3, D2, D1, definitely not their strong suit. Teams that bring girls to the games. I know for a personal fact that scoring a touchdown in front of your other teams, your opponent's girlfriends, nothing like it, seeing the look on their face. Next time, I'm sure Keyshawn's going to give the ball to one of them. All right, now things I dislike. The fields at Laval, why are they terrible? I know everyone's going on about them. They're so wide. They give mobile quarterbacks a complete advantage. I know quarterbacks like Solaric and Chenard, they're going to do very well out there, so I think they should schedule all their games or bribe Rob to move them all there. Kids with stiff arms, man, what's going on? I've seen one kid get slapped in the face running down the sideline. You know the rules of flag football. Don't bother doing it. I mean, you're not going to get flagged for it. So keep the hands down, learn the rules, we'll do better. I know it happens more in D3 and D4, but I saw a D2 guy get away with it. Clear Mike Tyson, this kid. High Rollers versus Killer Bees, what's going on, man? I had you guys up by 21 when I was betting with Rayhan backstage, and you guys only come out and win 18-7, 7-7 halftime. This is a team that is loaded from top to bottom. I don't know how you're not getting it done better than that. Then again, I should talk. People are getting confrontation over flag football. Listen, buddy, this is not East Coast versus West Coast 1990s gangster rap. It's flag football in Montreal. You're not going to the NFL. Chances are, unless your name's Miles Gibbons, you're not going to D1 football in the States either. So calm down, take it easy. There's no need to fight over it. Throwing punches is ridiculous. It's just going to get you banned. And as you know, and as I know, from being banned, it's not worth it. In the end, it only hurts your team. Teams that challenge the system. Am I the only one here looking around saying, the Demons, didn't they win spring D2? Shouldn't they be in D1? So any team that loses to the Demons this year, email Rob Campana, why are they still in the league? They should be in D1, why are they not going up? Also, renaming your team from Phoenix to the Kings to stay in D2. I mean, it's a little smarter, but it still gets around the rule. Also, quarterbacks in D1 aren't allowed to play quarterback in D3. Chief Sheftashi, starting quarterback for Notre Dame in the second half, also starting quarterback in D3. Questions, people, I don't understand. Things I don't like. Obey the rules. Stay tough. I'll see you next week.